It's been a few days and I haven't really had the money to get the FH-1 Hunter helicopter. I'm just going to call it the Hunter for short, but it took me a while because I didn't know it was going to come out, and then when it finally did come out I had like 500,000 maybe. I can't remember the exact amount, but I know I had to grind up, so I did what any person would do that has common sense and knows a lot about GTA. I did a quick cocaine run. I realized that that was garbage and I didn't do that again. I'll probably never fucking touch that again. It was the biggest waste of time in the world. Didn't even get that much from it, but I decided to switch to the airport hangar and do narcotics only. Then go to Headhunter. Then go back to that until I at least got 100,000 because you get bored really quickly trying to fill up your hangar. And so then I went back to the bunker, refilled it as much as I could until it got to 1 million, and then I sold it. And then I was able to almost get the Hunter, but I needed 100,000. So then I pretty much took and sold the car. I'm actually going to show that clip later on because it glitches, but I sold that car for 100,000 and I was able to afford the Hunter helicopter. And I'll tell you the upsides and the downsides of this thing, but I guess I'll start with the upsides. So the first upside about this thing is that you can have a barrage, but the only cost of that is that it's going to take around 6 to 7 seconds to shoot the other barrage. So if you miss that shot and someone's aiming at you, whether it's an NPC or other player with a rocket launcher, if you don't hit that first shot off, you're going to be fucked. And I'll explain that later on in the bad side things, but one of the things I do want to mention is that the barrage radius is really, really low. So if you fire all those rockets, they're pretty much going to have to be pinpoint. They're nothing like an RPG, grenade launcher, or sticky bomb. You have to pretty much hit them pinpoint with barrage. But for the Homan rockets, it's another story. I would say the Homan rockets have a good side and a bad side. The good side being that on the Hunter helicopter, I'm not sure, but they feel a little more accurate than the Savage and Buzzard rockets. You know, they're sort of like the in-between of the Nakota, but I would still prefer the Nakota for Headhunter in the desert areas because it works so good. Pretty much the Homan rockets on the Hunter and the Nakota are copy and paste, but the Nakota drives way quicker, or should I say fly, and you'll be able to get to the targets quicker. But for the Hunter helicopter, missions like this, it's pretty much good for because even though they're driving, sure you miss a few shots, but they are, from my experience, highly more accurate than the Buzzard rockets when they lock on the NPC. I know people are going to say there's a difference and you can actually hit players pinpoint, but I'm not talking about players, I'm talking about the NPC, in which case the other helicopters just have a very hard time locking on to them and shooting them. Well, I wouldn't say that the helicopters have a very hard time locking on, but the rocket will most of the time go around the vehicle instead of hitting it. And instead of hitting the actual NPC, it'll just hit next to them on the ground, and that's most of the time how they die. But for me, it actually feels like the Hunter helicopter has more accurate homing rockets. For me, when I usually do a headhunter with the Savage, it feels like I had to side straft left, or in other words, circle around them left, in order for the rockets to hit the vehicles. When I tried it with the Hunter, which you'll probably see in the next clip, it was just flawless and easy. And especially with Barrage, you can just easily finish them off. That's what I like to do. I like to do Headhunter where you chase the vehicles and then you fire like a few homing rockets at it, and when they hit them you finish them off with barrage. And you can also finish the targets off in Headhunter with barrage easily. That's a lot easier than using the Savage's widespread rockets in free aim. You could use the Savage's lock-on rockets, but like I said before, they lock onto anything, so even though you're trying to hit the intended target, it could lock onto the bodyguards, pretty much screw you over. And that's one of the other issues I have with the lock-on rockets is, say like in the situation I'm in right now, where all these bikers are shooting at me. What if there's a biker with an assault rifle, and I decide to attack him, but the helicopter's rockets decide to lock onto someone far on the upper left screen? So I'll have no choice but to switch to barrage and manually aim down and kill the target before they shoot me out, because the lock-on is not that great. So if you want my opinion, if you want to use the barrage, that can only be good for Headhunter when you're attacking the groundsmen. And then when you want to attack the vehicles, you could just use the homing rockets. But you could use the homing rockets too if you're very far away and keep your distance, which is what I always do. So I don't get shot out by the NPC, because in case you haven't already noticed, the NPC basically shoot like the Matrix men where they never miss. So if you don't want to get shot out, I would just say keep your distance until you lock onto them, then fire as much rockets as you want to, because it can fire a lot. As for the machine guns, I haven't really tested it. I'm sure it's pretty cool for anyone that is able to use it, because it's like the Valkyrie guns. I tested the Valkyrie guns and they're pretty badass, but like I said, I haven't really had another player to test it out with. But let's move on to the bad things since we're talking about that. One of the bad things that Rockstar Games has stupidly added, I'm guessing they're losing the history of their own games, because back in the older GTAs, the Hunter helicopter was able to control both weapons, and it was mainly one cockpit, meaning that you couldn't really put two people in there, at least from the one I remember. I think it was in San Andreas, but you didn't really need two people to control it. It was a one-man helicopter. And then Rockstar Games just decided to make it a two-man helicopter, so you can only have barrage and the homing missiles. You cannot control the machine guns by yourself like you could the older GTAs. You now have to need a co-pilot to do that. But at least I guess you can upgrade it to an explosive cannon, if that's any upside. And you can have drop bombs and I guess shaft, flares, all the other stuff, but nobody really cares about those. The only downside I could think of after that is there's no bulletproof windows, so NPC could quickly shoot you out. Don't rush any NPC like I'm doing in this clip, because this will be a death wish if you do this. This is a really bad move that I did. I didn't think it through when I was doing it, but I could have easily got shot out in an instant second. But another con I'm going to talk about is the armor. If you think that the armor was going to be anything like San Andreas' Hunter, it's not the case. It's pretty much weaker. I remember when I played San Andreas, it took like 6 rockets from a jet to take me out. But in GTA 5, it only takes 4 homing rockets and 3 RPGs, so don't let 4 homing rockets hit you, or in other cases, don't let 4 people lock on you at the same exact time or you're screwed. I know you can use flares, but how good is that when they fire simultaneously? Anyways, this vehicle is pretty decent, I guess. I actually appreciate some of the aircraft, like the Mustang and the Seabreeze. Some of the vehicles that were added weren't so bad, so I'll give Rockstar Games that. Anyways, that's all I gotta talk about.